The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. This is Michael Douville coming to you from beautiful, sunny Phoenix, Arizona. It's May 12th. This is a Creating Wealth production, and we want to talk about retirement and getting rich. So we've been talking I'm going to be very, very conscious of your time. We're going to try and get this done in 20 or 25 minutes. We do have a little room for questions and at the end of this, Tatum will make PDF and files available for everyone. And of course, the slides are available to everyone that they would like. We'll also be doing a YouTube. So if you'd like to send it out to your clients or send it out to your friends, you're certainly welcome to do that. So today we're going to talk about retirement and how much do I need? And we talk about how much do I need? We're really talking about how much income do I need for the rest of my life, because we're going to stop working and start enjoying ourselves. And we need to have an income stream that's going to cover all our bills. And then the question becomes, how much is enough? And oftentimes when we talk about how much is enough, we're talking about what kind of capital stack and what kind of investments do we need to last us for 30 or 35 years or 40, because we're going to live a lot longer than our parents did. So last couple of weeks, we've been talking about where to invest your money. And of course, some of the 6 great markets in the United States, a couple of those were in Texas, and those markets aren't so good anymore. We've been talking about the fact that Texas has been having trouble from the oil industry, and we're getting a lot of laid off oil workers. And what does that mean for Phoenix? That means a lot of Texans are going to be leaving and heading to Phoenix. And of course, there's skilled workers are going to be coming looking for jobs here, which are plentiful in Phoenix. It also has this trend of people leaving for California. We have a huge exodus. And we've been talking about the fact that these are workers, but they're also entrepreneurs and business owners, people who want to make something of their lives, and they're leaving the over-regulations and over-taxations in California and looking for a better life in Arizona. And a lot of them would consider Texas, but with the Texas turmoil, we're going to be getting a lot more people coming here to Arizona, which is going to increase our housing prices, and it's going to put pressure on rentals. And I think both prices of homes and rentals are going to be going up. And of course, the third trend that we've talked about. So Arizona has 3 trends. We've got the 40 and 50-year trend from Rust Belt to Sun Belt, and the baby boomers are retiring and they're leaving those cold climates and coming to Arizona. And of course, it's not just Arizona, especially going to Maricopa County, which is going to be the center of the boom, which is where probably the best market in the United States. It has the greatest population growth in the United States. We're enjoying great rental increases, and we're having great appreciation on our properties. So this has been really, really good. And we've noticed this going right through the problems we've had with the coronavirus and the recession. Arizona has not really participated in much of a recession in the housing. So why are we doing this? Because we have a travesty in America. We have 7 million elderly living below the poverty line. We don't want this to happen to you. We want to develop a plan and a strategy that when you're 85 years old, you're going out to lunch, you're going on cruises. We don't want you to have to worry about how to buy a new computer or how I'm going to pay for my internet, or I can't go have lunch with my friends. We want you to go enjoy your life, and we want to have a plan and a strategy for you because we do not want this to happen to you. We don't want you to be dependent on anybody. We want you to have fun. We want retirement to be having so much fun and not have a curfew or anyone telling us what to do and when to do it, because we're going to go have a blast. So we've been talking about how tough things are on the elderly and those that haven't planned. We have a different story about Major Steve, an American success story. We're talking about a man that made a difference in his life. He wanted a different life, and he made that happen. So let me introduce you to Airman Steve. I met Airman Steve about 10 years ago, and he was developing a plan. He wanted to have an extraordinary life. His family was an Air Force family. All of his father was a career Air Force man. His brother was in the Air Force, and he joined the Air Force right out of high school. And when I met him, he was on his way through the promotions, and he was a captain by the time I saw him. And he had a plan, and he knew that in 10 years he would be retiring from the military with the military pension. But he wanted an extraordinary life, and he wanted me to help him with the plan, and it was perfect. I would love to. And of course, he was 30 years old. He was actually 29 years old, and he had already decided that his life was going to have meaning, and he was going to do things, have an extraordinary life, and he made a plan for himself. So this is Major Steve right before he retired. Major Steve in Syria. Major Steve sent me a thank you right before he was retiring from his tent in Syria, saying that he was retiring and that he was going to go have an extraordinary life. Now, this is what he served our country. This was Steve's daily driver. He told me it went everywhere, but was a little tough on gas. So he was in Syria, made his plan, and made his plan work. So let me tell you that Steve purchased rental properties that cash flowed and had capital gains. So he realized that he needed income in his life in order to do things. And at 39 years old, Steve retired from the military financially free. And he did this program, he did this strategy, he executed his plan, and he wasn't even in the United States. He was overseas serving his country, and yet he was still able to put together a wealth building strategy for himself and execute his plan. At the age of 39, Steve retired from the Air Force, 39 years old. His whole life in front of him, financially free, with passive income that would allow Steve to go anywhere and do anything he wanted to. Now, one of the passions in Steve's life, he loved to travel and he loved to dive. He dove in Guam, he dove in Thailand, he dove in Australia, he dove in the Caribbean. He just loved to dive. Now at 39 years old, Steve can go dive anywhere in the world he wants to go. He can do anything he wants. He doesn't have to go to work. Steve can go to work, but he has the income behind him so that if he wants to go to work, he can. He can go find something that's really enjoyable. I had a client that loved to carve. Loved to carve. Give him a piece of wood and he'd start carving on it. This was a passion. This was his just love to do that. But he had to work. And I'll tell you that carving wood just wouldn't feed his family. And so it just became a hobby, but he couldn't enjoy his passion because he had to go to work. Steve can follow his passion and do whatever he feels he wants to do because he has an income stream coming in. We've talked about this before. It's a passive income. It's mailbox. So Steve employs property managers. They take care of absolutely everything and send a check to wherever Steve is in the world, or probably just his bank account, and he's using credit cards. So Steve did this out of the country. What's your excuse? You're here right in town. And if you're in my company, you have one of the greatest opportunities staring you in the face to be able to do this. We're here to help you plan. We're here to help you complete your strategy. And quite honestly, we can do this for you. It takes 7, 8, 9 years, and it can easily be done. And the rest of your life is your own. If you choose to work, you can. If you choose not to work, you don't have to. But the only reason that you don't do this is because you decide not to. There is no excuse not to do this. So I love this photo. This is from Breaking Bad with Walter White. If you remember in the story, Walter was trying to retire. He found out that he didn't have any money. He was working as a school teacher. And Walter White went into a criminal enterprise, and the sage wisdom from Walter White was, how big does this pile have to be? And of course, that's the question for all of us. How big of a pile do we have to be to have in order to make our lives exactly what we want it to be? So here's an easy formula. I'm going to give you a couple of them today. This is so easy. This is how much is enough. This is the really hard part, is totaling all of your expenses. Now, when I sit down and counsel with people, I ask them always to bring in their expenses, and they forget an awful lot of them. So let me tell you that you need to consider your phone, your gym, your golf, and any kind of entertainment, because you're going to want to go out and go to the movies. You're going to go to concerts. You're going to want to go to opera. You're going to want to go to dance. You got birthdays and Christmas and travel and weekend getaways, cruises. All this needs to be taken into consideration. Same with health considerations. How much you spend at the doctor? What happens if you do get sick? You need to start putting this into what is my cost and what are my expenses going to be. And don't forget the fact that things wear out. You're going to want a new car. You're going to want new furniture. You're going to want a new TV. You know, I'm really hard on my phones. I go through these. I drop them. You're going to want to factor in a phone. You're going to want these things. How much of that are your expenses? And don't forget this. Uncle Sam wants you to pay him. So I'm going to tell you that one of the big expenses is that we're talking about is $53,000 a year to cover most of your expenses for a living. That's what it is for $53,000 for the average American to have a reasonably nice life. That's a couple of vacations a year and pay for all their living expenses, $53,000. We forget on top of $53,000, Uncle Sam's going to want taxes. So that $53,000 is more like $70,000 for the average person. But if you want an extraordinary life, your expenses may be much higher than theirs. And I talk about a $10,000 a month goal to cover most of these things for yourself. So this is really the hardest part. Take your time. Try and figure out all my expenses. Get your check register. Get your credit card receipts. Get that statement from your credit card and go over all the costs that you have each and every month. Do it over 3 or 4 months. Go back a whole year and find out how much do I spend each and every year, because that's what you're going to need. And I'm going to tell you this, here's what everybody forgets. After we've gone down and drilled down to every little thing that we're spending, we forget that things cost more each and every year. Even in low inflation years, we're getting 1, 2, 3%. Inflation will grind you out. So you have to factor into inflation. And we're thinking that we're going to live a long time. So most people are going to live 30 years, 35 years. And with all the advances in medicine that we have, we may live 100 years. So you need to really have plenty of money and plenty of income. And we need to factor into inflation. So even at 3% at end of 30 years, you are going to pay twice what you're paying now. So we have to double your cost of living, double what your expenses are, because inflation is going to grind you out. Just think about that. So total all your income. And this is easy for you to do. Go to Social Security. They'll tell you exactly what your what your benefit would be. And of course, if you're married, you get a married benefit of both husband and wife. But keep in mind, as we get older, if one of the spouses dies, they get the highest of the two incomes. So if one dies, you lose a significant portion of your income. Same with pensions. You need to find out what your pension benefits are. Total that up so we know how much pension you're coming. I know that's a thing that we don't see a lot of, but some of us have pensions. And here we go with retirement accounts. I'm telling you that our statistics are showing that 60%, I think it's like 63% of Americans are retiring with less than $10,000. We need to do something about that. That's part of your plan. So if we get you early, like we did with Major Steve when he was 29 years old, we can make a lifetime of wonder for yourself and start working with your retirement accounts. And that's the 4% rule. We'll talk about that in a little bit further. Also, then you have investment income. So that's your savings, that's your money markets, that's your rentals, any partnerships, agreements, any extra income that you have on a consistent basis. Maybe you're a trust fund baby and you got money coming in from your trust fund. You need to account for that and know how long you're going to get that. So total all of your income. Now, when we're talking about the 4% rule, this is the greatest shock when I sit down with people. They just say, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So if you go and talk to your retirement account provider, they're going to say they're automatically going to take you to the 4% rule. So if you've accumulated $1 million, now I'm going to tell you, accumulating $1 million is not an easy thing to do. And typically when you're accumulating $1 million, that means you've had a pretty good income for your life. You're generally making $150,000, $250,000, $300,000 a year, and you've done some really shrewd investments. And you're just shocked to find out that $1 million is only going to give you $40,000 in income. $40,000. That's all they're going to tell you. You're going to be shocked. So we're going to have to work on some of this stuff. So I want you to do is take your income and subtract your expenses. And I'm going to tell you when I sit down with clients and with attendees, it's almost 97% find out that they have a whole lot more expenses than they have income coming in. And it is just an absolute heartbreaking to realize. But the sooner you find out what your income, less of your expenses, the better off we are, and we can make a plan. Keep in mind that we have the explosive phase in the real estate business coming up, and we're here in Maricopa County. So we're in the best real estate market in the United States, probably in the world, coming into the best marketing. Every 18 and a half years, we get this opportunity. So you have this right in front of us. So when we start talking income minus expenses, we have a chance to do something about that and make your life turn around for yourself. So here's the rule of 25. And you see this all the time. Now, this is really kind of a rule of thumb. And that's you take all your expenses and multiply them by 25. So if you're getting $50,000 a year, you multiply them by 25, you need $1,250,000. And that's simply really the rule of 4%, because you're taking 4% of your nest egg and you're spending it each and every year in order to pay your expenses. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you start thinking this rule of 25, what happens if your expenses change? What happens if you want to help your child and say, oh, I want to help them with a down payment? Well, all of a sudden that nest egg starts taking a hit. What if I want to go on a world cruise? Your nest egg starts taking a hit. What if I get sick and I need some of that money? Well, all of a sudden your nest egg, which you can't get back and there's no growth to it, starts to take a hit. And what about inflation? So we forgot the fact that when you've got, if your expenses today are $50,000, odds are 30 years from now it's going to be $100,000. So we're going to have to factor that in too, and you're going to need twice as much as what you think you are for only 3% inflation. 3% is mild. You know, in my lifetime, I've looked at 13, 14, 15% inflation during the 70s. That could easily come back. So you need to start factoring this in so that you can live. And what happens if we hit a rough patch like we have now? What happens if the market starts going against us? Because this rule of thumb they want you to have in your investment accounts, they want you to have stocks, bonds, real estate investment trusts, liquid assets. And of course, they're market driven. And if we run into a bear market like we may very well be in now, your nest egg is going to take a severe hit. And that needs to be factored in. So here's that 4% rule. As a retiree, you can spend 4% of your investments, and we increase that amount for 30 years. But here's the deal. After 30 years, that money is gone. Your nest egg is depleted. It's based on the fact that I have a pile of money. I'm going to take a little bit out each and every month, reducing the size of that pile. And by the time I'm 30 years old, I'm going to net zero. But here's the thing. What if at 20 years you need a hip replacement, you need some money? What if you need money to go into a nursing home, or you need to help your mom and dad or your children? You start taking from that nest egg, and it reduces that 30 years and reduces it very, very quickly, and you can exhaust it. So this 4% rule is like a 30-year mortgage in reverse. So, what if the markets go into a bear market and we take a loss? Well, I'm going to tell you that 30 years may very well be only 20 years. And here's the real problem. We're expecting to live a lot longer. What if we're unlucky and live a lot longer? Well, you could very well outlive your income and outlive your nest egg. And there you are, 95 years old, penniless, at the benefit of someone else, at their charity of your children or your grandchildren or some aunts and uncles that you haven't met for years and years and years. So what are we going to do about that? So here's Tony Bennett, 93 years old. Tony Bennett is 93 years old, going strong. When does his 30 years run out? So what if you're unlucky and be like Tony Bennett, and you're 93 having a blast and you run out of money? So we have a strategy and a plan to beat that rule for us. Because when you own properties, tell me, when does that cash flow ever run out? And that cash flow never runs out. We have strategies to do this. And you know what happens to that cash flow? We're here in Maricopa County. That cash flow grows. It gets bigger and bigger each and every month. So if you're getting $50,000 this year, next year you get 55. And the year after that, you might get 60. And the year after that, you might get 62 or 63. Because each and every year, your nest egg grows. And we can work out strategies where not only is it not depleting, your capital is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're leaving more and more for your kids. You've got a legacy for yourself. Or if you decide that when you're 93 years old, like Tony Bennett, and you want yourself a Maserati, you've got the money to do that because your nest egg has grown and given you cash flow each and every month for your entire life. This cash flow will never run out. This nest egg will never deplete. So I want to get you onto the plan. I want you to come in and talk to us. Let's go over where you are in your life. Let's find out where your goals are at. Let's find out what's good for you. What are you planning to do with your life? Are you planning to work till you're 95 years old? Or do you want to retire at 40 years old like Major Steve and go dive the world? So these programs and strategies are so easy. They're like a vitamin deficiency. As soon as you start onto the plan and a strategy, you get automatic help. Things automatically start getting better and things just start working for you. So we're here to help you. You are absolutely positively not alone. The firm wants you to succeed. They want you to become wealthy. They want you to enjoy your life and do everything that you've been given in this world for yourself. We want you to enjoy going to work. We want you to have a great life. And we're here to help you plan. We're here to help you save. We're help you set goals. And I am here. We have staff here. I'm here to help you in a very private, very confidential appointments. If you have any kind of questions, you're welcome to call me in my Scottsdale office. And if you want to rather just do an email, if you're overseas or you're out of the country, you're welcome just to email me at michael@michaeldeville.com. We're here to help you in any way possible. So we do have a couple questions here. They're asking about the 4% rule. Yes, the 4% rule typically works for most people. However, as we're growing older, we're finding out that that 30 years really is going to get down to 20 years. And keep in mind, it's really, really hard to get a nest egg put together. So typically, if you have $300,000 put together, $300,000 puts you into the 88th percentile. So $300,000 at 4%. Now, 88% of people at $300,000, you're talking about $12,000 a year. It only gives you an extra $1,000. So we really need to put together a program for you. And quite honestly, here in Maricopa County, with the type of appreciation that we're getting here, we can certainly do this. We've done this time and time and time again, as Major Steve has found. And we can do this for you. So give us a call. We're here to help you in any way we possibly can. My very best to you. Bye-bye now.